So Donald finally emerged from whatever cave he was hiding in over the last few days, and he's exactly the same. I know, shocking. He came out to make some big announcements that turned out to be meaningless, uh, really. But in the midst of it all, he managed to threaten yet another blue state, Colorado this time. We'll get to that in a minute. So it seems that this is the pattern. A blue state is already on the enemy's list because blue states don't support Donald Trump. They don't vote for him. We hate his policies and we hate him. But sometimes it's a new thing that draws his ire, or I should probably say, becomes a handy excuse for his increasingly fascistic and hostile behavior towards blue cities and blue states. Colorado got singled out because it has mail-in voting. Illinois has been singled out because Governor J.B. Pritzker has been very vocal about Donald and his fascism. New York has been singled out, well, because it's New York, and we've known for decades exactly who this pathetic moron is. So it shouldn't even be a question anymore, should it? What Donald wants or the kind of leader he is. He has dictatorial, authoritarian tendencies. He is the leader of a fascist party, and he wants all of the power. And he'll do whatever he can or believes he has to in order to get that power. We need to do everything in our power to stop him. And, at the federal level, that is not a great deal of power. We could win the messaging war. Absolutely. We can make sure that everything is slowed down by an avalanche of lawsuits. We've been pretty successful there. Blue state governors have not inconsiderable power. They need to use it in every possible way. I'm going to continue to talk more about that. But right now, I want to talk about how are we keeping score? How are we keeping track of Donald's successes in turning this country into either some version of a theocratic apartheid state or some version of an authoritarian oligarchy? Well, a lot of the times it's has a judge ruled against him, which is useful information to have. But just because a judge rules against him doesn't mean that the Trump regime is going to follow judicial orders, does it? We can keep score by checking out his social media posts, by looking at the numbers, looking at things like inflation and prices, the stock market. That's all useful. That all shows us just to what degree this regime is failing and failing us. But I think we need to find another more visceral way to keep score, to keep track of just how dangerous the Trump regime is, particularly how dangerous Donald is. Because his so-called policies, his threats lead to actions that do several things. So let's start keeping track of what happens if Medicaid and SNAP get defunded. What happens if you completely defund agencies like USAID? What happens when you stop giving American farmers money to help organizations like USAID fulfill their missions? What happens when you put somebody like Robert Kennedy, sociopath and former environmental attorney, in charge of health and human services? We need to start keeping count of how many elderly people in America can't afford to live in apartments anymore. What is the increase in the homeless population under the Trump regime? How many people need to choose in the winter between putting food on the table or heating their homes? How many children, how many of our children sicken and possibly die because they do not have access to what used to be readily available vaccines that prevented childhood diseases? How many children are going to get sick and potentially die because diseases we thought had been eradicated are being reintroduced? Let's start keeping score like that, okay? Because then maybe, just maybe, that not insignificant minority of Americans who cannot be bothered to pay attention, maybe all of that information will start breaking through in a way that assaults on our constitutional order and encroaching fascism don't seem to be. Let's keep score like that. And let's dive in. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of Mary Trump Live. It is wonderful to have you here. Well, because all good things must come to an end, Donald reappeared today. I know. And just to make matters worse, I guess, to punish us even further for his absence, he held a press event in the Oval Office. It was his first appearance, his first public appearance, I should say, in 6 days. I assume he appeared elsewhere, unless he was invisible or something. The purpose of this Oval Office presentation was, it was billed as a big announcement. So the announcement was a plan to move. Sorry, I keep forgetting that this is a thing that exists because it's so like I'm blushing right now. I'm so embarrassed that I had to say this out loud. They're moving the Space Command headquarters from Colorado to Alabama. Space Command, you say? That's the thing that exists? Yes, remember, that's now the 5th branch of the military that Donald invented during his first term because he's such a loser. Anyway, it is based in Colorado, or it has been up until now. Why? Why is it moving to Alabama? Well, there is some, I guess, reasoning, using the word loosely and probably incorrectly, behind moving the Space Command HQ. I'm sorry. It sounds like something out of like one of those cartoons that I used to watch as a kid. I can't remember what it's called, but like one of those space cartoons, Space Command HQ. It had nothing to do. This move has absolutely nothing to do with keeping our service members safer. Although, like, well, I'm not sure why Alabama would be considered safer than Colorado. It has nothing to do with the internal workings of the organization. No, let's let Donald explain it, because I'm sure he could do a much better job than I. Take a look.
I want to thank Colorado. The problem I have with Colorado, one of the big problems, they do mail-in voting. They went to all mail-in voting. So they have automatically crooked elections. And we can't have that. When a state is for mail-in voting, that means they want dishonest elections, because that's what that means. So that played a big factor also.
What? Okay, first of all, mail-in voting is perfectly safe. I think there are other states that I think, I could be wrong. I think Oregon perhaps has all mail-in voting. I'm not really sure, but it is a proven to be safe way for people to vote. It also increases voter participation, which is a very important thing considering how bad it is in this country. But, you know, the underlying point here is that Donald continues to punish states that didn't vote for him. Donald continues to punish states that do not embrace the big lie, that actually say quite openly that the big lie is a lie, and that he lost the 2020 election very badly by almost 8 million votes to Joe Biden. That is not governance. That is retribution. That is essentially a protectionist racket, because the opposite of punishing states for not doing what you don't want is the promise that you will reward them if they do what you do want them to do. Right, Alabama? Yeah. Another interesting, again, I'm not sure that's the right word, but let's say telling. Another telling moment came when Fox correspondent Peter Doocy addressed the elephant in the room. And that would be rumors of Donald's demise. I'm sure Donald loved fielding that question. Given how fit and youthful he is. Because he hadn't been seen in so long, which again is not normal for presidents of the United States, the internet was going on and on about his potential poor health. And here's Doocy's question, and then Donald's response.
Completely different, but about a big viral social media trend over the weekend. How did you find out over the weekend that you were dead? You see that?
No.
People didn't see you for a couple days. 1.3 million user engagements as of Saturday morning about your demise.
Really? I didn't see that. I have heard it's sort of crazy, but last week I did numerous news conferences, all successful. They went very well, like this is going very well. And then I didn't do any for 2 days, and they said there must be something wrong with him. Biden wouldn't do them for months. You wouldn't see him. And nobody ever said there was ever anything wrong with him, and we know he wasn't in the greatest of shape. No, I heard that. I get reports. Now, you knew I did an interview that lasted for about an hour and a half with somebody, and everybody saw that was on one of your competitors. I did numerous shows and also did a number of truths, long truths, I think pretty poignant truths. No, I was very active over the weekend. They also knew I went out to visit some people at the club that I own pretty nearby on the Potomac River. And no, I've been very active actually over the weekend. I didn't hear that one. That's pretty serious stuff. Well, it's fake news. It's just it's so fake. That's why the media has so little credibility.
First of all, poignant. Wow, spell it. Okay, so this is where we are. I heard nothing about my being dead. Oh yeah, I heard about that. I didn't hear a thing. That's fake news. Wait, you have to say it's fake news that you're dead when you're standing there, presumably alive. This is where we are. This is where we are. And of course, Doocy, that question was clearly a setup, right? Because if Donald didn't want that question asked, it would not have been asked, especially by a Fox person. Notice what Doocy doesn't ask him about. He doesn't ask him about all of the many symptoms that have been driving the rumors of his ill health and, well, death, which is fake news, says the guy who's not dead. Thanks for clarifying, because I wouldn't have known if you hadn't have said that. Then another answer is just bizarre. And it offered a possible hint of things to come. A reporter asked Donald about a video that was posted online showing unidentified objects being dropped out of a White House window. Okay. Before I speculate, let's take a look at the video.
Got another one? Let me see. Yeah, let's stay in that little outhouse on the end. Oh, somebody there, right? Right now, right? Oh, there you go. You got it? You zoomed in?
Is that Melania throwing out the mixtapes he gave her? Or maybe it's somebody trying to escape. They just forgot to tie the sheets together. I don't know. But here's Donald's reaction when he was asked about the footage.
There is a video that is circulating online now of the White House where a window is open to the residence upstairs and somebody is throwing a big bag out the window. Have you seen this?
No, that's probably AI generated.
So
Actually, you can't open the windows. You know why? They're all heavily armored and bulletproof.
A fake video.
Well, it's got to be, because I know every window up there. The last place I'd be doing it is that, because there's cameras all over the place, right? Including yours. No, but every window, I've never seen a window that's... In fact, my wife was complaining about it the other day. She said, love to have a little fresh air come in, but you can't. They're bulletproof. And number one, they're sealed. And number two, each window weighs about 600 pounds. You have to be pretty strong to open them up. One of the problems we have with AI, it's both good and bad. If something happens really bad, just blame AI. But also they create things, you know, it works both ways. If something happens that's really bad, maybe I'll have to just blame AI. But there's truth to it, because I see so many phony things. I saw something as I was growing up, from the time I was a baby till now. I said, who did that? It was AI generated. So it's a little bit scary.
Okay. First of all, I think it's important to... A window weighs 600 pounds? Let me get back to the matter at hand. I want to give a shout out to all of the morons standing behind Donald, just laughing and smiling and nodding as if this is all totally normal. Yeah, so back in the 1940s, AI. What? This is a direct quote. If something happens that's really bad, maybe I'll have to just blame AI, unquote. He said that, as you heard, many times in that one segment. Also, it's the first thing he said. It was the first thing out of his mouth when asked a question about what was being thrown out of the window. Must be AI. Oh, that wasn't practiced, was it? Of course not. So this is where we are. The president of the United States is telling the American people that anytime they see something that looks bad, it's fake. Now, he's been doing this for a very long time now. That he's been doing since he was a baby, sure. But AI is becoming increasingly sophisticated, and the ground has been getting softened for a very long time now. So people are more susceptible to believing this absolute bullshit. Because what's the next step? Well, they're telling you the economy's terrible because of what I've done. That's not true. Look at this video proving it. This is the slippery slope, right? Whenever somebody fed this line to him, clearly, and I don't care who was throwing something out of the White House window. I really don't. I mean, I'm actually surprised that Donald didn't say it was a bunch of cocaine they found left there by Joe Biden. I'm actually surprised by that now that I'm mentioning it. But why? I think that people are so used to believing or just accepting at face value everything they're told by people in authority. The real question is, why in the world would somebody spend their time generating an AI video of some fake person throwing some fake thing out of a window? Like, if it were we could tell what it was, that might make sense. It might implicate somebody in something, but it was an unidentifiable object, not a UFO in this, that sense. It was an unidentifiable object. Who cares? What was it? I don't know. And that way, one, he could have stopped scaring people about AI. And two, he actually, for the first time in his life, maybe could have told the truth. I don't know what was thrown out the window, but instead he had to create all these elaborate lies about how the windows are sealed, how they don't open. Because remember, he's a construction guy, and I don't understand how a window that was built in the late 18th, early 19th century could weigh 600 pounds. But, again, I'm not a construction guy, so what do I know? Everything now is going to be, if the Epstein files are evidence, if the Epstein files are released, it's AI. Nothing's real anymore. If anything is negative about Donald Trump, do not believe your lying eyes. It's AI. That's the new line. There is one thing, and I'm not entirely sure how he's going to rig this one, but I'm pretty sure Donald does wish that the news about the tanking U.S. financial markets was AI generated. Unfortunately for him and for us, all of the bad economic news has been generated by an actual human being, him. It was a very bad day today. Wall Street took a dive on Tuesday as rising pressure from the bond market pulled U.S. stocks down. The S&P fell 1.1% and was on track for its worst day in a month. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was down 412 points, about 0.9%, and NASDAQ was 1.3% down. On top of pressure, the bond market today was the first opportunity for trading after a federal appeals court ruled late Friday that Donald overstepped his legal authority when forcing sweeping tariffs on almost every country. Donald addressed the stocks slide at his press conference today and also signaled an imminent appeal to the Supreme Court when it comes to the previous rulings on the illegality of his tariffs. Take a look at what he had to say.
All these countries signed agreements. As an example, they're all happy. Everybody's happy. But some whack job put in a lawsuit. It went before a very liberal court, and the liberal court ruled, it was 11, they ruled 7-4, with one of the most liberal of them all voting in our favor because they're patriots. I think I give tremendous credit to that judge. And now it's going to the Supreme Court. Now we're going to be asking for early admittance. We're going tomorrow, and we're going to ask for expedited ruling because, when you look at the stock market's down today, the stock market's down because of that. Because the stock market needs the tariffs. They want the tariffs.
No, the stock market does neither need nor want the tariffs. The stock market is reflecting the reality of the situation, that we're in trouble because of the tariffs, and we're in more trouble because if they've been rendered illegal, then it's going to cost the United States government a lot of money to right this wrong. But of course, Donald has the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court to do his bidding, and he is going to appeal to them as quickly as possible because this is the theme of his life. If you can't win fair and square, which is something he has never, ever done, you call in favors to get the job done for you. So much of this is a distraction. It's a distraction from the Jeffrey Epstein files, from his abysmal mishandling of our economy, his tanking popularity, the fact that more and more people are beginning to understand just how corrupt, how deep in its bones corrupt the Trump regime is, how he and his cronies are raking in billions of dollars on the backs of the American taxpayer, how his egregious, irresponsible policies, whether vis-a-vis immigration or health, are getting people killed. So how do you distract from all of that? Well, one thing is to do what he continues to do there, just lie and pretend that what's really going on is not going on at all. That doesn't mean that we have to shift our attention or lose sight of what's happening. Just like that bruise that just won't go away. Neither will the Epstein scandal, partially because we keep talking about it, but also because, as it turns out, some of the people most upset about it are people in Donald's base, or people who 99% of the time will do whatever he asks them to do, but not this. This is a line that could not be crossed. So today, on Congress's first day back after a lengthy summer recess, we saw a bipartisan push to make the Epstein files public. CNN has more on this developing story, so let's take a look.
Members of Congress are back from summer break today, and they're picking up pretty much where they left off with the Jeffrey Epstein saga. House Speaker Mike Johnson and members of a key committee will meet with some of Epstein's victims ahead of a public news conference that's scheduled for tomorrow. They are in town in D.C. as part of a bipartisan pressure campaign led by Democrat Ro Khanna and Republican Thomas Massie to force a vote demanding the public release of all the Epstein files. So far, Speaker Johnson has stood in the way of that. Now, moments ago, he did schedule a competing symbolic resolution to affirm the Oversight Committee's work, a move Massie called meaningless.
Interesting. This afternoon, CNN reporter Sarah Ferris posted an update on Twitter that read, quote, Massie tells reporters he is confident this will reach 218 votes and says White House is phoning House Republicans to encourage them not to sign on, unquote, because he's desperate. He is absolutely desperate. But the fact that Massie, I mean, a far-right Republican, if ever there was one, is going against both Donald and Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is diagnostic, shall we say. He knows, Massie knows that there is a there, and that his base, the base of the Republican Party, wants the truth, as do we all. Hopefully Massie sticks the landing on this one and doesn't fold under the pressure. So far, that does not seem likely. And remember, the Republicans have a razor-thin majority in the House. I think they only need 3 Republicans to vote with Democrats to get this through. So let's hope it happens. But if it does, hang on to your hats. All right. I don't know what day of the week it is, but I do know what time it is. It is time to breathe. Whichever way you find most relaxing and restorative. And now it is time for our emotional support moment. For today's ESM, we're going back to the ocean, which is one of my favorite places to be. And there's a giant phantom jelly. What? Yeah. This is an extraordinary deep sea sighting about a kilometer beneath Monterey Bay. And there drifts a ghostly creature with a bell wider than a person and arms that trail over 30 feet. Even after thousands of dives, researchers have only seen it a handful of times. It shows up in oceans all over the world except the Arctic. But because it's lives so deep under the water, it's generally speaking out of sight. So a rare, mysterious giant that we are very lucky to have caught a glimpse of. That's amazing. Someday, I mean, I think it's unlikely, but someday I would like to find out, what is the purpose? I don't mean like things need a purpose in order to be able to exist. I don't mean that, but how did that come about? I find that fascinating. In the meantime, I feel quite fortunate that we were able to witness such extraordinary things. Okay, it is time to get to it. Questions, comments, etc. David is a new member. Thank you so much, David, and welcome. It's great to have you here. Diane, thank you very, very much for that. Awesome. Erin, wow, thank you as always. Gifted 10 Mary Trump Media memberships. That's fantastic, truly. Nanner, thank you as always. That's great. Gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Fabulous. Ethan, thank you very, very much. Great Pyre thundering through the house fee. Cool. I don't know what it means, but it sounds kind of exciting. Dorothy, thank you very, very much, Dorothy. Comment, been away for a few days. Glad to be back, Fee. Well, thank you for that. I hope you had a good few days wherever you were. I hope you were not with Donald. I'm sure you weren't. You have far too much taste and discrimination. Twinkle Toes. Canada's in the house. Elbows up, guys. Gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Thank you so very much. Ethan also gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Thank you again. Minus Cheryl. We're on a roll here. Minus Cheryl, thank you as always. Gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Excellent. And we have a new member, Jalone. Thank you so much and welcome. Elise, thank you very, very much. Excellent. And Jimmy is in the house. Jimmy, it's great to have you here tonight. Fabulous. And thank you, as always, for your incredible generosity. Quote, give me liberty or give me death, unquote. Patrick Henry. Yes, indeed. That is the quote. Mary, you are anointed, as is your team. Love from Dallas, Texas. Well, thank you, Jimmy. We appreciate that, and we actually take that seriously. We try, is what I'm trying to say. KM Nancy 965. Thank you so very much for that. Your comment. Thanks, Mary. My comment. Thank you. Diana, thank you very, very much. Comment, press event was horrendous. Yeah, I mean, it's just the way it is, right? This is the reality in which we live. Some very old man with severe psychiatric disorders has the attention of the whole world and is enabled to just ramble on, lie, threaten, destabilize the world with his delusions and his dark visions and his cruelty. What a world we live in. Jimmy, again, my goodness. Thank you, as always. Comment, remembering my friend Commodore Everett Horde of the RMS Queen Mary, oh, cool, who passed in July. The restoration of this famed ocean liner is finally happening. That's amazing. And keep us posted on that, because I find that kind of thing fascinating. Danielle is a new member. Thank you so very much, Danielle. Welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. Susan, thank you so much, as always. Gifted 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. Fabulous. Greg, thank you, as always. Comment, 3.5 million protested this weekend fee, which is amazing, but it's still not enough. You know, we've got to get that. It felt like we had some momentum going, and then it kind of hit a wall. So let's hope that the protests over the weekend are just sort of a priming of the pump, so to speak. But thanks for letting us know that, Greg. In the middle of nowhere, thank you so much, as always. Question, how many more times can I bear feeling that my head is going to explode? Fee. So not really a question. Just a quandary. Yes. How many times indeed? How many times indeed? I've lost count. We're going to be fine. Neely, thank you so very much. Gifted 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. That's fantastic. His Divine Scadu, thank you as always for this. Question, not a question. No, what are those things called? Quote, I cannot die until my enemies are dead, unquote, Fee. Okay. Or more worrisome than that is some particular person saying, I can't die, period. In the middle of nowhere, again, this is awesome. Gifted 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. Danielle, wow, you guys tonight, so great. Thank you so much, Danielle. Gifted 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. Cobalt, thank you very, very much. Comment, thank you for sharing your joy with us. Well, you know what? Joy is important. And we cannot forget that no matter what is going on in the world, there is always joy if we look hard enough or we open ourselves to it. And we don't have to look that hard. It's there. We have to be open to it. And I know, trust me, I know that could be extraordinarily difficult. Not that I'm speaking from personal experience. It's time for me to hydrate. Mary, thank you so very much. Oh, that's an ESM fee. And 3 cat emojis, because cats rock. Yeah, I'm telling you, those emotional support moments, I've come to rely upon them. And finally, Vicky, thank you so very much. Vicky, that is a return to the world. I'm gonna speculate that you meant return the world to sanity fee. Yeah, no kidding. We could use a lot of sanity. All right. That does it for us. Thank you so very, very much for being here. Thanks everybody watching on YouTube, streaming on Twitter, streaming on our Substack, and listening to the podcast. To all of our new members, everybody who gifted memberships, that means so much to us. All of our wonderful super stickers, everybody giving donations. You guys help us more than we could possibly say. Especially when the YouTube algorithm is kind of being a jerk. You know, not to get too technical. To our fabulous moderators who just keep this show running in a way that is meaningful. And of course, to my brilliant, wonderful team, that just continues to blow me away. So thanks, guys. And I just say, just wait until we are all running at full strength. I am so excited for what comes next, and we're going to be okay. All right, guys, have a wonderful evening. I am back tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern for Mary Trump Live. Don't forget, we have videos dropping every single day. Check them out. In the meantime, please stay safe and be kind.